Hi there. Just wanted to have a little video to show some of the new features in the next version to see what thinking it inspires. Um, Here is a clinical family I've been working with. Not that I'm going to get into this case at all, actually, but just pointing out again that when that we're keeping the information anonymous with aliases, which are always surrounded in brackets. And I've added um, a relationships tab to the timeline. Now the timeline already has the framework variables here to track shifts for the person that this that each event pertains to. And I've got the nodal events marked here with yellow, so you can set it just like that. Um, and currently, the diagram will, like if I mark this functioning up, the diagram will honor that. So who is that for? Adele, so she's going to be here. It'll honor that on the diagram with an arrow for that event, for that exact date, actually. And I haven't figured out whether to make that persist or not, which is obviously something that would be nice to have. But at least it's there for one moment. Now that's great, and I'm thinking about how to tie in the anxiety variable and there are some challenges with that. But I wanted to add that I added this relationship tab at the top, and the relationship tab tracks the emotional process symbols. For example, this triple lined fusion symbol is right here through time. And so it's going to have, it's actually supposed to have an end date there, or maybe the end date shows up. That's right, end date shows up when you expand. So you can set the start date and the end date, and then the people that it connects. And then you can change the kind, or at least you will be able to in the future. And so what this is doing, I think, is accounting for what's in the relationship column, at least in a way. I mean, my thinking isn't totally solid on the relationship between the framework and the diagram, but that's emerging through these features kind of slowly and naturally, I think. But basically, what this tab does is it gives you a place to be able to manage the emotional process symbols in the same way that you, through time, with a timeline, in the same way that you manage the overall events for the family. And this is important for two reasons. The first reason, a minor reason, was that, a technical reason, was that the what is shown on the diagram at any point in time is dependent on where you are in the global timeline for the family. And it looks like I have some sorting issues going on there. Anyway. And that means that if you added an emotional process symbol that existed between two of these dates, then you would never be able to, then it would be orphaned effectively, and you would never be able to go see it again, because when you move through the timeline, you would jump right over it. So I added a way to see all of the emotional process symbols between all of the people on their own, so that you can manage them there, and so that you can add them just as you can the events. So you can set the type, and then you can set the first person, the second person, or swap them, and then of course the start date and an end date, and then give it an intensity or size. I haven't decided on that term. yet because I was playing with the balance between leaving it generic and making it specific to a specific value. But at any rate, so that's one minor reason for this. The other reason is that I think that this is the place where this data model will begin to emerge, because it's the relationship tabs and it's the relationship shifts in particular, in specific, which track the movement of the emotional system, and so in that spirit, I have added 4 new symbols here. Well, 3.5, I guess. I have distance, which is dyadic, at least in its current conception. I have individuality, which shows that there was increased individuality between 2 people. And then I have togetherness, which is the opposite of individuality. So one may compensate for the other, for example. And then I also have a defined self symbol, which is when, let me actually say this actually occurred last Christmas. So this is this, oh, whoops, it wasn't him. It was, well, let's change that one back. Let's see. It was Adele. Oh, it looks like I'm getting a bug. At any rate, so this is a defined self symbol, which shows that this person here, defined self, so it's similar to the distance symbol, which would be where they're both preventing togetherness or something like that. It's this person defined self against the togetherness of this person. Now, I'm not backing up the conceptual integrity of this necessarily, but I am with all 4 of these symbols. I mean, this is a little bit of an experimental set of features, but I think it's important. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add a way to show the shifts between people over time, and that's what this relationship tab is for. And so these symbols are an attempt to do that. I at least wanted to add in individuality and togetherness because it seems to me like those 2 counterbalancing forces are so key to the theory. So so I think that's a major change and hopefully an improvement in the app. Another feature that I added, which is related to this, is mostly for when you're using this with clients, is I added a keyboard shortcut to be able to pop up the dialogue to quickly add an event to the timeline, or an emotion symbol or relationship. Actually, I'm having a conflict between the terms here. I'm not sure what to do about that, but basically to add any one of these emotional process symbols between 2 people, or cutoff is a monadic symbol which applies to a single person. For example, let's see if this will work right now. Oh, no, okay, there's a bug. Anyway, so when you're sitting there and you're working on a diagram and you're just wanting to add things into the timeline, you can just hit Command E and it pops up the event dialog, and you can set the date and you can set the description and the location, etc. And notes, things like that. And then you can add it and it'll pop right up in the timeline. And then once you add it, the dialogue will go away, and then you can just keep hitting it, and you can keep adding more events. It should make it really fast, really easy to add events. Without having to deal with kind of the clunky timeline way of doing it that I had previously, or without going into each person. Actually, I should mention that. Before, the only way to add events was to go into a person's history. So this is his history, and then adding events for that person. And so this just makes it a little easier to just really quickly go, boom, all right, I'm going to add an event to any person, and then move on. Same thing for the relationships tab. I think I'm just going to change this motion to relationship. We'll see how that works. You can add the particular symbol that corresponds to these, and then you can set the person or people that it pertains to in an intensity, add it, and then it will show up here, and as well as on the diagram. And you can do that over and over again as quickly as you want in order to get in order to input a whole bunch of history data as fast as you want. Okay, so that's that's the major change, or one set of major changes. There's another change that is also quite major, I think, and that is the inclusion of tags. And tags are a term that it's a tool that is used in lots of internet technologies, where you can basically assign a label to an object in your data structure. So in this case, it's to a person or a marriage or one of these emotional process symbols. And the reason that you use tags is because you might want to filter your searches based on tags. And the reason that based on one or more terms, let's say, and those terms are implemented as tags. And so the reason that I did this was because I think that this is a very sophisticated and powerful feature that will probably have we'll probably find uses for it that I can't see as of today. But the original motivation for this was that in entering in data for my own family, I ended up with a timeline that was just kind of unmanageable. And this family's timeline isn't unmanageable, but I had another clinical case that was just, there's too much data. And that's fine, because we want to be able to collect as much data as we can. And then the question is, how can you just manage the way that you access the data to be more efficient? And tags is a great way to do that. It's my first idea for that. And so what it will do is basically you can go and oh, my edit button's not working. Boy, lots of bugs. Can't wait to fix these bugs. So maybe I can do that here. Right. So if you edit an event, it has a tags tab on it. And this is the same list over here on the timeline as it is on the event tags, as well as the person tags, because you'll notice that there's also that the person has a tags list as well. So I can say, like, if I want to say that an event has that these objects have something to do with someone, X person, what's his name? What's his alias? I don't want to use his real name. Leroy. Leroy gets Leroy out of jail. And so you can see that showed up in a couple of different places. And I'm just trying, and the way that I'm interpreting the diagram is that there are a series of events that I am connecting cognitively with a particular event. And so if that event in this family, this person got out of jail in 90 something, 97 or something, and let's see here, yep, 97, it's right there. And there's all these other events that I'm connecting to that, or something like that. And so then I can say, all right, so this is where this event is where this person, the identified patient, according to this Medi-Cal case, it's where he goes to school, and it's in his personal history, right? Now, the content of what I'm saying, like this school event is not associated with the jail event, but the point is that I can set this tag. I can set this tag for this event. And then when I come back over here to the timeline, I can click on the tag that I created, and it will filter the timeline based on that tag. There's nothing for this one yet, but so let's just say, let's do wedding reactions. Let's do another one. It updates all of the tag lists with that. And then let's say this one, this person will just edit these 3 at the same time and say those were all of these events. I arbitrarily picked them here, but let's say all 3 of these events had something I want to organize, having something to do with this wedding. And so now if I go over here and click on wedding reactions, I get 3 events that have that tag. So it's just a way of filtering your events, and you can have more than one tag at a time. And if you deselect all the tags, then it just goes back to the default view. Another feature, so if I make this, not to mention being able to resize this arbitrarily, which is a nice thing. You just put your mouse right here and you can resize it. Another feature is being able to search the timeline. So we can use tags to filter the timeline. We can also search based on date. So if I want to say everything since, when did he get out of jail? And again, I'm having some bugs with the search order a little bit here, but that's fine. So it was 97. Oh, yep, it's searched. It's sorted incorrectly. Anyway, 6/1/1997. So this is the start date. So if I type that in, this is on all the events it's going to show me are after 1990s, after this date, and then this is an end date. So let's say to 2000 for this one here, 4/02/2001. So now it's only showing the events, between this date and this date, and including those dates. So you can also do the same thing, searching for the log date at the same time. So if I want to say this is after the new year of 2018, and let's say March. It's going to give me everything that happened. Well, let's change this to February. So now March 2018. Everything that I logged in February. So adding January in there, you can see. So you got another bug. Lots of bugs to fix. Oh no, there just wasn't any in January. Nice. Okay. Anyway, so this is just allows you to narrow it down. Now the reason I added this feature in here to be able to search for, obviously searching by date is going to be helpful, especially if you have a large data set. I added in the ability to search by the logged date because frankly, I was having, when I couldn't get to my progress notes in time, I could just go back to all of the events that I added in for a certain date, like 2/9/2018, 2/9/2018. And it would jog my memory of what we were talking about in the session. Usually, even just having one was enough. But if I'm cataloging all of my information per day in one session in the app, then it's going to give me a pretty good. Then I might be able to get all of my information for the progress note from the app. So anyway, so I can clear this, and it'll clear everything out. Right? Yeah, it clears the search terms. So that should make it a lot easier to deal with a large data set and to do more precise work on the timeline. So, and the tags, again, the tags are on the person properties, and it's the same list everywhere. They're on the person properties. They're on marriages. Oh, nope, they're not. I didn't add it to the pair bond. Maybe I will in the future. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't. Well, and they're on the emotional process symbols, and I don't have a reason. The tags for the people doesn't do anything yet, but and which is the same thing I was running into with the pair bond. I mean, I could easily actually add tags there. Technically, I'm not sure what it would do yet. However, the next version of the app is going to have. I'm going to add the layers to it, kind of like in Photoshop, where you can have presentation data on the diagram. Like you can have call out bubbles like in comics, that point to a person and have a bunch of text or something like that. Or you can draw lines around people to show who's in a business or something, or maybe and add color to people and that sort of thing. And then you can switch through the layers. It'll be a list just like this, and you can switch through the layers and it updates the diagram. And then so the use for the tags, I think are going to emerge over time for all of the objects in the diagram. So I think that's it. I think that's it. Let me double check. Oh, geez. Yeah, I got to restart this. I got another bug there. There was one more change. So there's the visual timeline. Now this currently is pretty primitive. I think that this is a really important feature to add in order to be able to get a holistic view of what's happening of the timeline, and it keeps it to scale so that the distances between the dates are accurate relative to all the other distances, so that you can see when dates clump together, especially around nodal events, which are going to be which are just going to have a bigger dot, at least in this version. So I think this is fairly self-explanatory in its current version, but this view can really evolve to be a lot more sophisticated and show a lot more and show the comprehensive, or give the holistic 30,000 foot view in a lot of different ways, and it's just a matter of coming up with how it needs to look. Oh yeah, that's right. One more, and back to tags. So there's also a tag list here for relationships to search, just like in the timeline. So I just forgot to say that earlier. So there was one more thing I wanted to say. Oh, right. There's a lot of new keyboard shortcuts. Those are, well, you can't see it for where I have the window for the video right now, but these say show diagram, show timeline, show graphical timeline, show relationships, undo history and current date, etc. And there's two more that are off the screen for showing next event and previous event and jumping to now. So I'll just demonstrate those. So, and like this says, so command 1 is going to be show the diagram. Now that's the state that it's in right now. But command 2 is going to bring out the timeline. Command 3 brings out the visual timeline. Command 4 goes to relationships. And then 1 goes back to the diagram. So you can switch between all of these views really quickly. And that in conjunction with the quick add event dialog here, and being able to quickly add a relationship symbol, and then jumping between all the views of the timeline is with the keyboard, just makes it a lot easier to flip around to get exactly where you want to go in the session. I think that, so once you get the muscle memory for the keyboard shortcuts, then this sort of thing can go a lot further and with a lot less overhead. Okay, last event. Oops, last feature, and then I'm gonna move on to other things for the day. So there's the undo tab here. This is a minor feature, but basically it gives you the history of actions that you've done. So all the way from moving people to moving the diagram. It basically just racks up the undo history here, so you can see what you've been working on. To changing properties, and then you can jump to an arbitrary spot in the line like that, or cycle through them with your arrow keys. It's just a help, so you know what you're working on. So oh right, and then there's 2 more keyboard shortcuts, and that's Command Shift and then right bracket goes to, you can see the date changing up here. It goes to the next date in the timeline, and then left bracket goes through backwards. And this is meant so that you can see so you don't have to have the timeline up, and you can move backwards in time and forward in time. Oops. With the keyboard. You can see my mouse is still sitting here. So you can animate the diagram in its entirety, and you can see that in the timeline that's automatically moving. So all of those shortcuts are found up in the View menu. Anyway, that's all for now. And I'd be interested to see what this inspires. Thanks.